to Your Art Path, art blog for artists. My name is Anna, and today I cannot wait to share with you the new Procreate 4.2 update and all the features in it. I've collected 8 different things that I absolutely love about it, and I've ordered them from 8 to 1 being my most favorite. But again, it depends on your style, your preferences, your way of working. So for you, they might be in a completely different order, or some of them might be not relevant to you, but that's okay. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new today. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button. Thank you for your support, and let's dive right in. Okay guys, so let's start with number 8. And number 8 I give to additional brush settings, and in particular it's a stroke tapper, which is actually pretty cool. It's pretty neat. I want to show you where to find it. So here I have duplicated one of my brushes that I've created previously, and let's look into the settings of it. It's really useful for you if you are a person who creates brushes, so you might find this really useful. So here we have the pressure tapper, and then you can adjust the size of this and as well of that. So let's say we go to tip, and then when we change it, it's supposed to change stuff. I don't completely get that one yet. It's kind of like a thing you use only if you really create brushes. So if you maximize the tip and then you start adjusting the end of your brush, you might notice some slight differences here, but I guess it also depends on what brush it is. However, let's see how it affects our brush. So here, I'm just gonna use the brush as it usually is. I'm gonna start drawing a line. Let's make that line bigger, and let's make sure we can actually see it. So here is my line. It's pretty solid, nothing's really going on. But if I start adjusting some of these things, as you can see, size, opacity, pressure, tip, everything is to the maximum right now. That's why you can't really see any differences at the beginning or at the end. But if we, let's say, take away this and that to the minimum, then we should start seeing some results. And the results are not huge, but if you look at the two ends of this one's really blunt at like 100%, and this one's a little bit more transparent. So that's pretty much how it works. I guess maybe it's not the best brush to show it on, but you get the idea. And then of course you can adjust different things here, and then it will also affect your brush. So it also depends on how you apply that pressure and this and that. And then here you can just bring those up a little bit. So this will pretty much affect how big of effect do these settings have on the tapper of your stroke at the beginning and at the end of it. You can also adjust it to the touch tapper if you like drawing with your fingers. However, I don't have that setting enabled because I find it distracting when I touch something and it by mistake it draws on top of it. So that's the number 8 that I'm excited about. Now let's get to number 7, and number 7 is actually really amazing. It's the gallery preview. So right now you don't see that option. However, let's start selecting stuff. Let's select 2 folders. We can also select just artwork that's on its own, and then here we have a new option up here that's called a preview. And if you click on that, you see that the first artwork that was selected is opened up, and it's kind of like a preview where I can swipe through my personal work and just look at it side by side if I wanted to. It's actually really great, as it allows you to look at your work and without actually exporting it to look at it after. So I find this to be a pretty useful tool. Actually, I think it's actually really great. There's like little arrows here as well, and to exit you just click the X button. So that's the number 7 I am most excited about. Number 6 is interpolation. You're like, what are those fancy words you're throwing around, Anna? I have no idea how to even say it properly, so maybe I didn't say it properly, but it's actually a really, really cool tool. Let me show you how it works. So here I have an artwork. Let's get rid of that. Here I have an artwork on a new layer. And what if we had to zoom in into that artwork, but we don't want to lose the quality of it? Well, you will lose some quality either way, but you actually have some more options right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer 3 times. And now we are going to select this first layer, right? And then let's say we want to zoom in onto the eye or the little girl. Let's just zoom into something. So we're just going to grab our transform tool, and here you see a new option called interpolation, right? And it has 3 different options. Interpolation pretty much means that you're deciding how your app calculates the additional pixels created. I personally like using bicubic as it allows for the smoothest transition, but let me show you exactly what I mean. So let's start with the nearest neighbor interpolation, and let's just zoom in. Let's just zoom in into this little girl right here. Actually, let me just zoom out a little bit so I can see exactly what I'm doing, and let's turn this off. Okay, so interpolation nearest bicubic. Let's just zoom in quickly on her, and let's just pretend so it's all equal that we're just gonna do this. Let's say this is my artwork. I want to do that, right? So I'm just gonna turn it off. So it's zoomed in, it looks pretty good. Let's look at the next one. And let's use bilinear right now. So, zoom in. I completely forgot what it looked like. That's okay, we'll be able to see the difference either way. Okay. And let's zoom in with this one. And now let's use bicubic. Yeah, that should be good. Okay, so now what I want to show you is how it affected the quality. So the first one we did was a near transition or something like that. Let's zoom in close. What we see here is a lot of sharp squares. So it's still zoomed it in for me. It still created those extra pixels, but they are not the smoothest transition. So it resulted in this pixelated look. Then if we look at the second one, it's way smoother. Do you see the difference? Like, it's insane how big of a difference that is. So if you want this effect and you want it to be like super sharp, you can of course do that, or you can get this. And then the bicubic one is even smoother. I hope you can see the difference on the camera, but if not, just feel free to experiment on your own and you will be able to see it like in no time. It's crazy. That's why I suggest you use bicubic, but I'm really excited about this because now we have full control over how we actually work with our images. Number 5, additional options for selections. That's really exciting. Let me just get rid of these layers. And let me show you what I mean. So in here, we can select things with a selection tool, and it used to be automatic freehand, and most of these were here, but now we have 2 additional options such as rectangle and ellipse. So if we start drawing, we can just start selecting this way or with an ellipse, right? And then just a useful tip, if you want it to be a circle, you just tap and hold, and now it's a perfect circle. And the same goes with a rectangle. No, actually, yeah, rectangle doesn't work like that. Okay, just ellipse. If you want to make it into a circle, you can. So that's actually really, really great. I mean, it's fascinating for me, as well as this kind of tiny little menu right here that I love, which is the feather. So sometimes I like adding a little feather on the edges of my artwork to create this vignette effect. And if we select an ellipse and we start drawing a circle, then we hold, and it's a perfect circle. Everything looks great so far. And then I'm just gonna let it go. And I'm going to click on the feather, and I'm going to add the feather. See how this changes? This circle changes. Let me make it more obvious for you so you can see better. Let's do that. Okay. One more time, circle. And then, so here is our perfect circle selection currently, and you can see the little lines on the sides. But if we start feathering it, those edges become blurry, and that's actually really, really fascinating and great. So I'm just gonna make it way more blurry than it is. And then what I'm gonna do is I want to invert the selection because I don't want to enter a color here. I want it to be on the outside, so I'm just gonna quickly invert that. And then whatever doesn't have the lines is what's selected. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to create a new layer, and then I'm going to fill it up with a lovely, lovely blue color. And if I let go, we can see that it has this feather effect of a smooth transition. And together, it just gives this additional vignette look to your artwork that you can play around with different modes and stuff. Let's do overlay or something. Yeah, I think I like multiply the most, and then just can adjust it. And it just gives this like lovely vignette look, which is pretty insane since before you had to do it manually, and I actually had to use an eraser tool and this and that, and it was insanely more work than it has to be. But this is a really, really exciting feature. What else you can use it for is, let's say I want to create a perfect circle that I will be filling up. But I don't want to draw it because it's so much pain to just draw those circles. So I'm just going to use the ellipse tool, and I'm going to hold again. It's a perfect circle now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me make sure I'm on a new layer. Perfect. I'm going to fill it up with this pink lovely color. And what that allows me to do, it allows me to have a perfect circle, then I can keep working with that. And we will get back to the circle, so I'm just gonna leave it for now. But that was the number 5. Now let's look at number 4, Canvas Resize. Super, super amazing feature. You can find it in the settings, Canvas, crop, and resize. It's perfect for those who like sketching on one canvas in one size and then changing the size as you keep working. Yeah, just if you want to keep working on something, then you can change the canvas and change the size and everything. So let's just click on here, crop and resize, and you will see a lot of different menus here. And these ones are your width and height, and you can use this lock lock option, and then they stay the same, so they stay proportionate to the square, or you can unlock it. One thing to keep in mind is that right now, currently I'm at 3000 by 3000 pixels, and so it's 55 layers available. But if I start changing it, let's say I want it to be 5000 now because I want it wider, I want to add more stuff. Now it's 31 layers. So make sure you're working with a proper size if you like working with a lot of layers. But pretty much that's how it looks now, and it correctly cropped it. We can still use the undo gestures and everything on here, but let's say if I wanted to be just cropped like this, I can do that, or anything really, or I can even rotate my canvas. So when it crops it, it's actually going to crop all those layers. If this was on 10 layers, it would crop all 10 of them, and that wouldn't be that great anymore. So, let's just go back and let's pretend we want to do this. So another thing to keep in mind is that right now I'm extending the canvas, so it won't really affect how pixelated it could get. But if I was, for example, making a smaller size canvas, then what I would actually do is something different. But let's, so yeah, you click done, and then it automatically resizes all of your canvas as well as your layers and everything, right? So let's undo that. But if I, for example, wanted to make it 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels, I wouldn't use Canvas Resize. I would actually go here, add copy canvas, then I would create a new file, 1000 by 1000 pixels, and then I would just paste canvas. That would be way better because then I would have an original artwork that is bigger in size, and then I would have a smaller copy of it that is 1000 by 1000 pixels. Okay, let's get to the most exciting parts. And number 3, LIQUIFY. So LIQUIFY tool has been in Procreate for a while, but there are a lot of new features inside of it, and I would love to take a look at it. So let's create a new layer and let's fill it up with beautiful, beautiful colors. I'm just gonna grab one of my watercolor brushes and just, or maybe not watercolor. Maybe watercolor is not the best for it, but let's just fill it up with like different colors. Let's just do this first. There you go, perfect. So let's fill it up with some lovely colors, and I'm gonna show you something that literally blew my mind. I definitely didn't expect that to be available. And I really love this tool because it allows me to create different items that are abstract and that can be used for textures, that can be used for different variety of things, really. I'm sure when you see it, you will actually love it as well. So I'm just kind of dabbing my brush with a variety of things that don't make sense, but that's okay. You will see why I'm doing this in 1 second. Okay, so I have a beautiful abstract piece that represents my happiness at the moment, and we're gonna go to adjustment settings, and we're gonna go to LIQUIFY. So before, we had a lot of these options, but one of the most crucial ones is this right here. It's distortion and momentum. So in order to better show you what I mean by both of them, let's just grab push tool, but it's available in all the others as well, most of the others. But let's grab a push tool and start pushing paint around, right? That's pretty much what we're doing. We're just pushing paint around. So here is, okay, let me grab a smaller size so you can see better. So here is me pushing paint around. Right, it's pretty self-explanatory. Whatever way you go, that way the paint gets pushed around. It's fun. It's really fun to play around with that. However, now we have distortion and momentum, and these two are so great. Let's look at distortion first. Let's just bring it up to the max. And what you will notice happening is that it distorts everything by so much. Just look at this effect. It's like playing around with ink and water, for example. Or like a nail polish and water. I've done this before where I would put nail polish on water and then I would play around with it. It's actually really fun. So it distorts it like it was on water, right? And without it, it's just kind of taking that paint and smudging it, but it doesn't have this watery effect. And now let's look at momentum, which is also really amazing. So let me just show you something. Without momentum, when I start distorting things, it just kind of does it. When I stop, it stops with me. When I start, it starts with me. That's pretty much how it works. But if we turn on momentum, check this out. So I pushed it and then it kept going. So my brush stops right here, but the paint, it just keeps going. It keeps flowing like it was actually on the water. And the best thing is that if I do it slightly, it just slightly goes beyond where my brush is. But if I go hard, it just flies off to the other side of the canvas. That's really exciting. And together with distortion, it can create into some beautiful effects. It's like pushing water with paint around. It's really quite beautiful. So this is really interesting to play around with. But you can also use distortion and momentum on the other things. And just keep distorting them. It's so much fun to just play around with all of these things. You will find yourself using it if you like experimentation, if you like interesting backgrounds. Then they also added this new crystals and edge menu, which are also quite lovely. So crystals, let's take away momentum and look at crystals on their own. They just make everything crystallized and sharp. It's like little crystals are coming out of the tip of my brush. It's really beautiful. Just check this out. Gorgeous colors. And then let's just undo that so I can show you distortion and momentum. Well, momentum not quite required, but if I do this, look at that. It does the same thing as it did before with the crystals, but it distorts the paint around, and it's just such an interesting effect. And if I do momentum, then I can also distort and push so it keeps going sideways and all. So it just creates for a very interesting effect. And then there's edge. In edge, you can do distortion, but you can do momentum. And what I actually found is if you're drawing two planes that fall into a little like a hole kind of in a way, right? This is actually really good for that, because look what happens. If I start doing this, it just brings all the paint to this one point. And to me, it almost looks like it's either they used a palette knife to apply this paint, or it's two planes that are going into some kind of hole. And then without the momentum as well, similar thing. But you can create quite interesting forms with it. Like I didn't even do anything yet, but it already looks like it has this form to it. Imagine adding a little bit of shadows here and a little bit of highlights here. That would be quite interesting. I think maybe you can use it even to draw maybe falls, but mostly I think maybe landscapes or water. Yeah, I think it would be really great for water or landscapes. But this is just something really exciting to play around with. That's why I gave it number 3, because I love it so much, but I would still use it only so frequently. But it does create for beautiful effects. So I'm just gonna keep that. Now, number 2, clip-in masks. So if you've taken my Mastering Procreate course, you know that in order to draw something within this circle, we would use alpha lock. We would alpha lock it, and then I would potentially duplicate it so I don't lose the original. And then I would take whatever colors I want and I would just paint on top of it, right? So it doesn't leave the edges of the work, because when we alpha lock it, we save the pixels, and then the rest becomes just like little squares. And so that's pretty much what's happening. We can't leave this circle, and it's actually really amazing if you want to create some sort of textures or yeah, different things. And then if we don't alpha lock it, it's obviously going to go further than that. So to work within an object, we would alpha lock it, but right now we have a different option. Let's say we don't alpha lock this, and then we create a new layer and we want to add a pattern to this circle. So we would start drawing a pattern, right? And then would you go ahead and start erasing everything? No, that would be way too much work, and then you wouldn't get the perfect result that you want, right? So that wouldn't make much sense. We could create a circle and then invert it and then delete everything else, but again, it's too much work. And right now Procreate came out with the clipping mask, which you are probably familiar with if you've ever worked in like Photoshop. So when we click clipping mask, watch what happens. It's clipped to this shape, even though it's not alpha locked, but whatever's on here, this is gonna be clipped to it. So that's really amazing, because then we don't have to worry about perfect erasing or creating alpha locks after alpha locks. We can just create clipping masks, and then if I want to edit this shape, let's say I start adding it, then it takes the information from here and clips it onto our new shape. So if I wanted to break the shape, then it would just keep going. That's actually really cool. And then another thing that I love about this is that if I create a new layer while being on this layer that has something to clip to it, if I create a new layer, it's going to be automatically clipped as well. So then I can start creating a different pattern, for example. And let's say I hate it, because I do, and then I can just turn it off, and this one's still there. So it makes your work way safer and faster, really. Another amazing thing about this is that, let's say we take this texture that we previously created, and because it's not on the clipping mask, there's the little thingy. So if I turn it on, it's gonna clip our texture onto this circle. Let's just move circle to the middle, because that looks really weird. Yeah, but watch what happens if I start moving this layer with the texture on it. It starts changing here as well. Right? So that's really exciting. And then if you wanted to, you could even insert an image, and then that would be alpha locked. So if to turn it off, you just, alpha locked, clipped masked. So if you want to turn it off, you can just do that. And then if you want to turn it off, you can do that as well. And then you can move them around, and then we would have this on top of this. I don't know why, but we would. And then we can still change the modes. So really the options are limitless here. Clipping mask, an amazing tool. That was the number 2 on my list. And now, drum roll. Number 1, quick shapes. If you're into Procreate and you're following some Procreate community videos and photos and tutorials, then you already heard about it a million times, but I'm gonna say it again. Quick shapes. Quick shapes are absolutely amazing. Let's just turn this stuff off and try using quick shapes. Let me take some bold brush. Let's just use soft crayon. And let's create a shape. Okay, so before with the circle, we would struggle and stuff, and then now we can use the select tool to fill it up. But there's another way to do it if you're, for example, working with line art. So I'm just gonna start drawing a circle, which is gonna look absolutely terribly, and I'm gonna let go. Check this out. It has given me a perfect ellipse. If I hold it, it becomes a circle, but I don't even have to hold it because this is a quick shape, and it says here ellipse created. So it's a shape that I can keep editing until I let go. So let's say I let go right now. There is a new option that appears only the first time. The next time when I select it, this option is not going to be there. I'll show you later. But right now we can click edit shape, and we can click circle, and magically we have a perfect circle. We didn't even have to do much, and if we work with line art, this is really crazy, like so simple, so great. And then if I let go, when I select it, the next time is just a normal layer. So if I would extend it, it would get pixelated and everything, so we don't want that. That's why if we want a circle, we just create a new one, and then when we change the size of it right now, it still keeps that property. So it's almost like vector, even though it's not, but it performs like it in a way at the beginning at least. Okay, this one doesn't even show me that it can be a circle. That's how terrible I was drawing a circle. So Procreate doesn't stop just at this. We can create a square. Right now it says quadrilateral created. I can edit shape, and I can make it into a rectangle, a square, or I can make it into a polyline. That's a little bit different. I'll show you in a second. But with all of these, there's these points that I can keep adjusting if I want to, and this is like really cool. And then I can still go back to rectangle or a perfect square, and I can rotate it. I can rotate it later, but I can like change the size of it and everything. I can edit it to however I want to edit it, and it's really great if you're working with perspective, for example. I think that tool would be really quite useful. And then polyline, what it just does, see there's additional dots here, so they are not here. This is one shape. This is not one shape anymore because it has these additional dots, because I created such a terrible line that wasn't straight. Right now we're just working with lines. So all that is lines. Those points represent lines, and I can edit this shape to whatever I want it to be. So that's pretty amazing. Now, the last one I wanted to show you is that we can create any shape as well. So let's say I'm going to want a like triangle. There you go, now we have a perfect triangle. It's pretty neat, right? And then let's say you're drawing a house, but you want to edit some things about it, then you can always do that. You can just start drawing a house. Oh my god, I draw like a 2-year-old. That's okay. Let's just pretend it's an arrow. Yes, not a house. I wanted to draw an arrow. So there it is. And then we can edit shape, and then we can edit all those points if we wanted to. So yeah, that was my 8 favorite things about Procreate. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Feel free to go to yourartpath.com to grab 2 free hairbrushes that I'm giving out. Where are they? Okay, they're right here. I have 2 different hairbrushes that I created for you guys, and I want to give them to you. So go to yourartpath.com and go to Freebies, and then you'll be able to get these beautiful hairbrushes. There's like for slimmer hair and not so slim, but yeah, I love those brushes. So if you want them, you can get them, as well as there's a free 20 tip PDF for Procreate artists, and of course like, subscribe, comment down below if you want me to make a video about anything else. Sometimes I run out of ideas, so you guys can really help me out with this. So if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Thank you for watching. See you next time.